Whether it was a Coke, Pepsi, or a supermarket brand, at some point or another, pretty much everyone has tasted a cola-flavored beverage. But have you ever tried to describe what Coke or Pepsi tastes like? Go ahead, give it a shot.
I don't know.
It can't be done. Despite being regularly consumed by billions of people all over the world, cola isn't a flavor with a widely accepted definition, or even one that's widely known. So what's the big secret? Well, today we're answering, what is cola flavor exactly? Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel. After that, please leave a comment and let us know what other flavors you would like to hear about. Okay, what's my flav again? The class of beverages known as colas owes its existence to a pharmacist. His name was John Stith Pemberton, and he had served as a colonel in the Confederate Army during the Civil War. Unfortunate. After being wounded in battle, Pemberton became addicted to morphine, but he didn't want to stay that way. Luckily for him, he held a medical degree and eventually embarked on finding a safer substitute for the object of his addiction. One of his early attempts was an alcoholic beverage called Pemberton's French wine Coca Nerve Tonic. Pemberton sold that wine out of his drugstore in Columbus, Georgia until 1886, when the state passed a prohibition law. Unable to continue selling the original concoction, he came up with a new, non-alcoholic version. To differentiate it from the original, he decided to give it a new name that referenced the coca leaf extract and cola nuts used in the formula. That name was Coca-Cola. To be clear, Pemberton didn't conjure the idea of cola out of thin air. For example, his original French wine Nerve Tonic was suspiciously similar to a then popular French Corsican coca wine product called Vin Mariani. The main difference was that Pemberton's version included African cola nuts, which contained caffeine. He likely got that idea from other beverage makers who had long been experimenting with many of the same ingredients Pemberton would eventually use in Coca-Cola. With Coke, however, Pemberton arguably improved on the recipe by adding in the coca leaf extract. As you've probably heard, that extract had its own secret ingredient, which was cocaine.
Do you mind if I do a line?
It goes a long way towards explaining why the drink became such a hit. But the company began removing the cocaine from the coca leaves at the beginning of the 20th century, so despite the rumors, Coke is most definitely not still made with cocaine. Temperance was popular in the late 19th century, possibly because no one realized they were living in the late 19th century. So Pemberton chose to market his new product as the temperance drink. That being said, he still very much considered it a medicinal beverage. In fact, as far as he was concerned, it could cure everything from morphine addiction and nervous disorders to headaches, indigestion, and impotence. Coca-Cola first went on sale at Jacob's Pharmacy in Atlanta, Georgia on May 8, 1886 for the low price of 5 cents a glass. Despite ostensibly being a medication, it was sold out of a soda fountain alongside other soft drinks and mixed with carbonated water because it was believed the bubbles were also beneficial. Those other soft drinks, in case you were wondering, likely included products like Schweppes Ginger Ale, Dr. Brown's Celery Soda, Fioravanti Fruit Soda, Hires Root Beer, or even Dr. Pepper, all of which predate the invention of cola. Sales of Coca-Cola were slow to start, but soon enough, they'd explode like a drop-kicked soda can. Despite the fact that various forms of soft drink vending machines had been around since the 1920s, until 1899, Coke only made its product available through soda fountains. In 1894, however, a candy maker named Joseph Biedenharn began bottling Coca-Cola and turning a nice profit. Biedenharn tried to convince the Coca-Cola company to bottle the beverage themselves, but they weren't into the idea. In fact, in 1899, then-owner Asa Griggs Candler sold the bottling rights to another company for $1, which, rumor has it, he never even bothered to collect. Long story short, bottled Coca-Cola changed everything. Whereas soda could only previously be sold to those in reach of a soda fountain, bottles meant pretty much anyone could now buy a Coke. and pretty much everyone did. Over the next 10 years, Coca-Cola would experience a 4,000% increase in sales. Those bottles were made available in vending machines starting in 1937, and over the subsequent 2 decades, the company would build over 1,000 new bottling plants, while simultaneously expanding into markets in Europe and Asia. Today, Coke is the world's most popular and top-selling cola product. In fact, according to the company that makes it, the word Coke is one of the 2 most widely understood words in the world today, second only to okay. Its massive success is also the reason that cola is now considered the default flavor of soda. Success breeds imitation, and the Coca-Cola clones started arriving on the scene fairly quickly. For example, as early as 1893, a New Bern, North Carolina drugstore owner named Caleb Bradham had created his own cola, which he marketed as a cure for dyspepsia under the name Brad's Drink. It didn't fly off the shelves. In 1898, Bradham gave it a new name inspired by the dyspepsia it was meant to cure and the cola nuts in the recipe. That name was
Pepsi Cola.
Pepsi would go on to become Coke's arch enemy and chief competitor, the Megatron to Coke's Optimus Prime, or vice versa, depending on how you feel about all 4 factions. That competition would eventually lead Pepsi to invent the now ubiquitous 12-ounce bottle, which made Coke's 6.5-ounce bottle, sold at the same price, seem downright tiny by comparison. And since so much of our cola comes in cans today, it's worth mentioning that soda was being sold in cans as early as 1938, and Pepsi was using them as early as 1948. Coke, however, didn't start selling canned Coca-Cola until 1960, and just in the nick of time, the first vending machines that sold soda cans appeared just 1 year later. When it comes to cola, Coke and Pepsi are, without a doubt, the number 1 and 2 brands respectively, but they're far from being the only game in town. RC Cola, for example, has been around since 1905. RC, which stands for Royal Crown, was founded by a grocery wholesaler who was upset that Coke wouldn't give him a volume discount. Today, however, they control a full 10% of the entire market for cola. RC supporters also claim that it tastes better than either Coke or Pepsi, at a cheaper price point to boot. Meanwhile, Thumbs Up Cola might actually be the 3rd biggest selling soda in the world. Introduced into India in 1977 to capitalize on Coke's temporary withdrawal from that market, Thumbs Up is generally perceived as being tastier than Coke. And when Coke attempted to re-establish itself in India starting in 1993, they found themselves getting embarrassingly outsold by the local brand. Thumbs Up, which managed to capture 85% of the country's cola market, was also outselling Pepsi. Eventually, Coke just went right ahead and bought the company outright, because Coke hates losing that much. There's also Jarritos Cola, which was founded in Mexico in 1950, Inca Cola, which has managed to outsell Coke in Peru, Green Cola, which is a major seller in Greece and is not actually green, Fritz Cola, which is big in its native Germany, and Foxton Fizz, which is one of the oldest and most established brands of cola you'll find in New Zealand. Finally, no discussion of cola would be complete without a mention of Jolt Cola, which began giving kids irregular heartbeats in 1985. Marketed at the younger crowd, Jolt sold itself as sort of an early form of energy drink using the slogan, "All the sugar and twice the caffeine." The campaign rubbed parents the wrong way, and Jolt frequently found itself at the center of controversy. Today, it's only manufactured under license in Australia, Sweden, Germany, Finland, and the Netherlands. So, what is the flavor of cola? Well, like we mentioned, every cola is made from a different formula, so they all taste a little bit different. But they also all have enough in common that we can get at the answer by analyzing the granddaddy of them all, Coca-Cola. According to its manufacturer, Coke contains carbonated water, sugar, phosphoric acid, caffeine, caramel color, and natural flavors. With the exception of the coloring, all of those elements play some part in the overall taste of the drink, but obviously, it's the natural flavors that really define its taste. In the beginning, that natural flavor was mostly provided by the cola nuts used in the recipe. However, cola manufacturers have long since stopped using them, likely due to how much caffeine they contained. These days, Coke still uses the coca leaf extract, but now it's mixed with the flavors of vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg, as well as lemon, orange, and lime citrus oils. There are a few other unknown inclusions thanks to the secret formula, but those ingredients are the main contributors. In short, it's kind of like mulled wine, a spice drink typically associated with winter and the Christmas holiday, which fits considering the brand's century-long history of using Santa Claus as a spokesperson. Also, John Stith Pemberton named his initial version of Coca-Cola Pemberton's French Wine Coca Nerve Tonic, so spiced wine is in the drink's DNA. Pepsi, for comparison, is flavored with vanilla, caramel, and cola nuts. It also has a dash of citric acid in it to cut through all the sweetness, which Coke lacks. What this means is the world's two biggest colas are basically spiced wine punches from two different house parties. They're distinctly different in taste, and people who say they prefer one to the other aren't just imagining it. So the next time someone asks you what flavor cola is supposed to be, you can confidently tell them it's sort of spiced wine with candy in it. Or you can just say, Christmas. They'll probably know what that means. So, what do you think? How would you describe the flavor of your favorite cola? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, check out some of these other weird history food videos.